Hello, good evening, and welcome back to the Majority Show, coming at you live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. This is Scotland's #1 anti-nationalist show, and we are very happy to have you here tonight. I'm here tonight with co-hosts David Griffiths and Mary Devlin.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everyone.
What have you got for us tonight, David?
Tonight, among other things, I will be asking, is Nicola Sturgeon just about to leave Holyrood?
Okay.
Mary. And I'll be talking about the SNP's audacious lack of auditors.
Oh, that's very good, Mary. And I'll be taking a tour of the latest SNP disasters in a £100,000 motorhome.
And I'll be doing the comments as usual, so please try to make them short and snappy, and I'll try to get as many up on screen as I possibly can. Thank you.
Right, and of course we will have Zoomer of the Week, so we will be back in just a moment. Oh God. Right, welcome back there. We hope that the stream is going out okay. We always seem to have some kind of little issues on our side, so...
it's all part of the fun.
Well, I don't know, you could call it fun, perhaps. First of all, we have to do an apology to those of you who would normally watch on the Majority's Facebook page. For some reason, we've been locked out of there, and we're trying to get Facebook to let us back in. Not that easy. We're basically getting emails from saying, we will deal with this within 24 or 48 hours, or maybe longer. So... Anyway, yeah, exactly. A huge thank you to our friends at UK Union Voice and United Against Separation Facebook pages, from where many of you are watching tonight.
Indeed. Okay. And wherever you are, please like, share, comment, tell your friends, and extend the reach of the show at the click of a button.
And a huge thank you to everyone who subscribed to our channel. We now have over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah, that's really great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Right, well, some of you may have noticed that I am wearing the latest high fashion item in Scotland, the Abolish Holyrood t-shirt.
Whoa.
And this is a great conversation starter. You either gain appreciative looks from your friends, possibly free beers, or you can start a talk with your nationalist friends, should you have any, who will accuse you of being anti-democratic or anti-Scottish, at which point you can say, so let's have a referendum then, and see about it. And that is, my friends, checkmate. So if you'd like to make sure that you are in control of the narrative, T-shirts are available at our shop, as well as other designs. We have a whole bunch of them here, if we can get to the thing. Where is it? Okay, have a whole bunch of them available, including mouse mats. And I Love Scotland Too Much to Be a Nationalist t-shirts for ladies. We're going to put some more female versions in there over the next few days. And we got a request for the Abolish Holyrood mug, which is coming up soon as well. By the way, this t-shirt is excellent, absolutely, really excellent quality, nice sleeves, so you'll be happy with it, and perhaps it will last even longer than the Scottish Parliament.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I know, Mark, if you're happy with the t-shirt, it must be good, because you are the fussiest person I've met with t-shirts.
Yes, I am very, very fussy. We've gone through 3 or 4 different versions of this one to one I liked, and if I like it, yeah, it is.
We're using up our life savings there on
it's
t-shirts.
Pretty good. Okay, so let's get on to the news of the week. The bad news continues for the SNP. As if it wasn't bad enough to have police tents on the lawn, on Sunday, a £100,000 luxury motorhome was impounded at Peter Murrell's 92-year-old mother's house. This set off a wave of speculation. Who bought it? Why is it there? And what is it used for?
Yep.
And while we don't think it was used as a covert meth lab, we also don't believe the people at SNP who claim it was bought as a campaign bus. David?
Indeed not. If you want a campaign bus for an election, you don't buy a camper van with beds. Why would you? Who's going to sleep in it? What are they going to do all day? Take naps? Utter nonsense. It's just, come on, guys, we're not fools. But the fact that it's been sitting on a very elderly lady's driveway for 2 years, and it's now been not just questions being asked about it, but it's actually been taken away. I'll come on to this later when I talk about my section on the rumours that I hear and the stuff that's sent to me. But very, very interesting that it should be actually removed by the police. So I asked a question about that, and I'll tell you the answer later. So just have a little think, guys. Why do you think it might have been taken away? We'll come back to that, okay?
Well, I don't know. I have to think about that. I mean, this is the thing. Mary, do you give some insight into the accounts, perhaps?
Yeah, so I looked at the last published accounts for the SNP were the 2021 accounts, which were published last August, September time. And they show a motor vehicle listed as an asset on the balance sheet for £80,000, which hadn't been listed the previous year. The previous year was zero. And then suddenly we've got, it's just over £80,000 listed on the books. So possibly it could have been the £110,000 camper van, and then they've put depreciation on there and depreciated it down to £80,000. Maybe they're depreciating it over 5 years or so. I don't know. And interestingly as well, the cash flow shows purchase of tangible assets for £125,000.
Yeah.
So
the purchase of the motorhome could be included there, and that would make some sense.
Well, that's, of course, I think if it was going to be used for campaign, then it would belong to the SNP, right?
Yes.
But if it was a private thing, why wouldn't they just say, well, this is our private motorhome, we bought it with our own money, what's it to do anyway? Yeah. That's the first thing you would say, right? That was the defence. Not, we're actually using this as a campaign bus where we're going to paint it yellow, put like the horse box, Mike Russell's horse box.
Yeah.
We'll tow the horses behind, and we'll have have this camper van in front. It sleeps, 4 people in luxury as well. I mean, what kind of thing is that? You don't have this. Why is it even a news item? This is an interesting thing, I think.
Well, it's a news item because it was taken away by the police.
Right.
That's why it's a news item. So why were they taking it away? And David, when are you actually going to tell us why they took it away?
in literally
later?
Close on to the next question. So I won't keep you in suspense much longer.
It looks to me like, well, I don't know, but the accounts for 2021 would add up if a motorhome was included there. And I guess storing it in Edinburgh would be a problem. So it would make sense that Peter Murrell's mother might just have a long driveway, which he doesn't have in Uddingston. So they might just park it over at his mum's house, and maybe the SNP even pay his mum some money for doing that. I don't know. But what the hell use is a camper van to the SNP? It's certainly not a campaign camper van.
And why wouldn't you just, rent one? Like, you think that the SNP has that big bus that they always trot out. They have that bus all the time, just available. This week we'll paint it all yellow and say "Stop Brexit" on it, and then a few weeks later we'll use it for something else. That's not the way it works. You rent the bus. You rent the camper van. If you're going to go up to Orkney or wherever, it's not Orkney, somewhere in the mainland, I would guess, up north. You're going. But really, what you're going to do? You're not going to stay in a hotel. I mean, really, it doesn't make any sense.
No.
Really, that they would have that at all. Right. Okay.
Well, there are some people are coming up with theories.
Let's see that.
Here's an interesting. Maybe Murrell's mother had her water switched off and she's been using it for a shower every day. 2 years? That seems like a long time to have your water closed off. I don't know.
Judging by the size, the way the party membership numbers are declining, perhaps they were going to use it as a new party headquarters.
For the AGM, yeah.
Or maybe it's for the nights that Peter gets thrown out the house.
Don't know about that. Right. Okay, talking about getting thrown out the house, we're going to go into this next part now. David,
yes.
You're taking over, we hear, from Mystic Meg, and we're going to call you Destiny Dave.
That's me.
I think is what we're going to call you. As you've been coming up with more than a few predictions lately. Didn't you predict Miss Sturgeon's resignation?
I did indeed. I did. And what I'll do tonight is briefly explain the way that these things happen and how I come to come about the information first off, and then how I assess it and what I decide to tweet. I'm not making this more than it is, but it's just to give people an explanation. So what I tend to do, guys, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet here in the slightest, every weekend I catch up in the politics shows, I tape them all, watch them all, and I evaluate also the texts and private messages I've received that week, and I receive many these days. Really, it's amazing. I've always been somebody people feel they can go to with information, particularly latterly because they think I can get it out there. So, for example, I can't remember if I've said this in the show, but a few weeks ago, a gentleman got in touch with me and said there's an SNP councillor from a particular large town near Glasgow who allegedly molested a young woman while drunk on a coach trip. Now, he said that the young woman was highly displeased about this, so she's complained to her local MSP and the local MP. Now, the guy named the councillor, he named the MSP, and he named the MP, and he's told me that they've all been in possession of this information for weeks, and not one of them's done anything about it. And the MSP said to the councillor, I can't help you here. If this comes out, I'm going to have to leave you. So this is what's happening in the SNP right now. I've given all those details to a national newspaper, and they're just waiting for either one of either the alleged victim or a witness to come forward, and then they're going to run with it. This is a big story, and these are household names. Certainly, the MP is. So that's one to watch. But that's the kind of stuff I get. So what I have to do is assess it and think, right, could this be for real? And then I'll tweet my predictions for the week, and that's where this has come from. So a few weeks ago, I looked at all the stuff Sturgeon was saying, and I thought, there's absolutely no way she's staying. She has got to leave. I got a call, I had a chat rather with somebody over in Edinburgh, said, yeah, I'm hearing the very same. I think she's going. I think she's going to announce it soon. That's when I put the prediction out. A lot of people laughed at me, and lo and behold, she went. People said, oh, what shock? It wasn't a shock to me. Now, last weekend, I looked at Sturgeon's behaviour just before and after her husband was arrested in what's now known as CSI Uddingston. So what I thought would happen next, which was, this is just my own analysis, well, I reckon Sturgeon's going to leave Holyrood either at or probably more likely before the next election. And I think, given the coldness, the absolute lack of any warmth between the two of them, I think she's going to announce soon that she and her husband have separated, much as in the same way that Tony Blair waited until he left office to announce he was converting to Catholicism. It's just something people wait until they're out of office and then do. So that tweet got a bit of traction. They got a lot of new followers. The next day I get a call from guy I know, guy you know, in fact, guy's fellow anti-nationalist, I won't name him, who had some info for me, and he said he'd been told that day Sturgeon is about to step down imminently. I said, right, okay, imminently, yep, definitely, that's what I've told. And he said, the story has come, it's emanated, I said, originated from Police Scotland. Right, interesting. So we got talking, and I said, what about this camper van? Why would they take, I understand why it might look a bit dodgy, but why would the police take it away? He said, I'll tell you why they take it away. They took it away because they suspect, Police Scotland suspect it has been purchased using the proceeds of crime. That's why they've taken that away, guys.
Okay. Proceeds of crime?
Yep.
Right.
What do you think that means? What kind of crime do you think that is?
It could be the 600k, which is supposedly to be used for a referendum, and it's bought what is basically a mobile home. Well, how do you say that? They've used this line that every penny we spend is in the pursuance of a second independence referendum. Well, that doesn't really extend to buying a camper van, guys, whichever way you look at it. So the suspicion, I guess, and I'm only deducing this, is they are looking into this money. They're also looking into other missing money, and they've said, tell me about how you bought this. Oh, we bought it with someone. Did you really? Right, we're taking it away. Something like that. But apparently it has been, and this is just allegedly, it's been taken away because they suspect it has been purchased using the proceeds of crime. Or that is something they're investigating anyway, whether they think that. So, serious stuff, guys. I think it's very difficult to overstate the scale of the financial and political trouble facing the SNP right now. As was pointed out earlier today by Jamie Blackett, if the SNP can't find auditors in time for the submission of their next accounts, which is, I think, July, they face being deregistered as a political party by the Electoral Commission. And that's how serious.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that a bit more. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, cool. So I would say right now, every financial transaction they've undertaken since the apparent misappropriation of the crowdfunded 600k, every financial transaction since then must be under suspicion. Every contract they've signed must be.
Yeah, but most people wouldn't buy. I don't know. Most people wouldn't just go outright buy a motorhome like that. They would. No. They would get it in credit, right? They put down a big deposit and get it in credit. That's the way it works.
Absolutely.
It seems a bit straight.
Not necessarily, Mark.
Well, I know, but it seems a bit. It's a bit of an obvious paper trail if you say, right, okay, I've just swindled £100,000 off of the accounts. No, I'm going to put that right into a motorhome. I mean, they're not that stupid. I mean,
I think what's more likely is if going along with David's, thinking, is what's much more likely is that they did buy it with SNP funds, and they are trying to, and they said, okay, we'll say some story that we're using it for campaigning or something like that, and HMRC won't say anything. But of course, 90% of the time they'll be using it for personal use. But we'll say it belongs to the SNP. It's an asset, but we can use it for personal use.
Right.
And maybe, I don't know if there were rumors that HMRC were involved in this investigation.
Well, I'm sure they will be.
So that might be something that they're looking at and say. But I mean, you can in your accounts, you can put anything in there and say, oh, well, I bought it for the company.
Yes.
But when HMRC come inquiring, you have to have a good story as to how you were using that for the company. And this may be one of the items that they say, no, we're not really buying this story.
Yeah.
But that's just my thinking. I mean, you can go out and buy anything you like. You can buy yourself a £5 million villa in Marbella and say that you were using it for business purposes.
Yeah.
But you've got to justify that, and that's the hard part.
Yes. Well, it seems a bit. I mean, it seems very obvious, but this is the thing. People who do commit crimes, they think they're going to get away with it. That's the thing. They do.
Here's an interesting comment, Mark. Sorry. Another theory says they used £600,000 to pay back the loan from the Weirs.
Wasn't that much higher than that, though? I think it was $1 million or so. Anyway,
well, that would be.
Well, there's going to be much speculation about this until it comes out. I mean, we don't know at the moment where it's going to go. These items are all should be prefaced with allegedly and so on until there is an actual indictment or was it a proper charge is made. Nonetheless, we are, as media, able to comment on these things and speculate, as is our free right in this country.
At the moment.
Yes, well, that's right.
Wouldn't have been much longer there.
Well, anyway, and I think David has said here, just to use your thing, the only question is who is the next SNP figure to be arrested in question, because it isn't Sturgeon wasn't she the treasurer?
She was the treasurer, exactly. At the time that the auditors left, she was the treasurer, so she can't see. Her normal answer would be, "Oh, sorry, that's party business, nothing to do with the government." So I wasn't aware, but she can't use that excuse, even although the farcical issue is that her husband is the guy in charge of the party, and they've tried this in the past, making out that neither one of them ever talked to the other one about cross-pollination of party and government business. What a blatant lie that was. So she can't even try that this time because the two of them were named as joint treasurers. So unlucky. So who knows? But the next one is like who knows? But Sturgeon, my feeling is still that she will certainly announce she's stepping down. And as I say, I got this tip that it's going to be announced very soon that she is actually going to leave. I can't see her remaining there. Can you imagine her sitting there in the back benches? Well, Humza Yousaf says, of course, the previous administration.
I'd be rolling my eyes the whole time.
Exactly,
because you can't. That's the thing about it. You have to get out. You can't be doing that type of thing.
Well, I have a couple of comments on that. Number one, if she does resign, then that means that both of them have no income, and it looks like they are. Well, we assume that they have no other income. She didn't show any in her tax returns, did she? And they're going to have all these looming legal costs. So you would think that one of them would be trying to hold on to a salary. So that's my only thing against maybe that she wouldn't resign. On the other hand, though, she's been taking driving lessons. And maybe one of the reasons that she's taking driving lessons is that she will be separating from Peter Murrow, because they do have a car parked outside their house. So he's obviously the driver. But if he gets thrown out the house, then she doesn't have anyone to drive her around.
It's a desperate bid for freedom.
So I think the driving lessons.
Driving lessons.
I think the driving lessons. She might be doing one of those courses to get your pass your driving test in 2 weeks or something.
I noticed that the name of the company she uses is Caledonian. I mean,
of course, that's who she would use.
Maybe she used Transformer. How to transform a large fortune into a small fortune.
Yeah, quite.
Okay, so. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to be talking more about the SNP's financial woes, or more like woes.
Whoa.
Right, welcome back to Scotland's #1 anti-nationalist show. We're glad to have you here tonight, and more woes for the Scottish National Party's financial state. Mary, let's have a wee chat about that.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the auditors. This is a pretty serious situation, as David has pointed out. We're finding out that not only do the SNP not have auditors to review their accounts, which need to be published in the next few months, and it's a legal requirement, but the auditors, Johnston Carmichael, resigned at the end of last September. So, I mean, that's over 6 months ago,
Yeah.
and then people are now saying, well, they left because the police investigations had already started at that time. So
Wow.
the police investigations, of course, are ongoing, and
Mm.
now everyone's saying, "Oh, we didn't know, we didn't have any auditors," including Humza Yousaf. This week, we just found out when he became the first minister, and that it only became public on April 7th. I don't know if any of that's true or not.
Well, it's not true. Well,
Who knew
it's
and
not
who
a
didn't
matter
know?
of whether it's true or not. Well,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter
but
whether
the
it's true.
fact is,
whether it's credible or not, right?
yeah. And we're also being told that the SNP's ruling body, the National Executive Committee, was
Yeah.
also in the dark. So that's pretty serious. The SNP's last financial accounts were published for 2021. They were signed off in August 2022. So that was last August. And then the auditors left in September. So something kind of happened between publishing those accounts and whatever was going to be coming up in 2022 that made me think, no, we don't want to be involved in this. What's even more worrying, though, is that given all that time that's passed, the SNP still haven't appointed any new auditors. So they're having a real problem trying to find auditors, it looks like. I mean, either they've sat back and they've not done anything, they've been too busy with other stuff, I don't know, or they've been shopping around town, well, town being Scotland, trying to find other auditors. But either way, it doesn't look good. So, and now, and to make matters even worse, the same auditors who quit the SNP in Scotland, they've now quit the Westminster group as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what the details are of the fraud investigation or the accusations of financial mismanagement. But what I've been looking today at the 2021 accounts, the last ones that were published, and it looks like to me like the problem was that, well, a problem that arose, and this may have something to do with the overall situation, was that in 2021 compared to 2020, the income was pretty much the same. The problem was that 2021 was an election year. So they spent over 1.6 million on campaigning, and then there was VAT and all that stuff and whatever. The upshot was that they spent 2 million more than they spent in 2020, even though the income was about the same.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they ended the 2021 financial year. There were 750,000 in deficit at the end of that financial year, which is not good. So you've got a big problem. And then, Mark, as you've calculated and worked out before, at the end of 2022, well, if we're looking at 2022, the membership fell by about 20%.
Yeah.
So that alone would cause like another 650,000 or so of a loss from membership income there. So things were bad at the end of 2021. And then for the 2022 financial year, they must have gotten a lot worse, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So there's definitely a lot of trouble going on there.
I mean, someone else says there, who would want to take on the job, though, right? Especially if there's under this type of investigation. I can't see that working out. I mean, what?
Well, if you're an auditors, that's what they do. That's their business. They go out, they look for clients, and they want to audit their accounts because they get paid for it, right? So if everything was okay, if you got if you're an auditor and you're given the information that you need to do the auditing of the accounts, and things, you say, well, this is what I'm going to say. I mean, the auditors have to report what they find.
Yes.
And they have to look into it. So why wouldn't you want to do it? You would only not want to do it, I think. I've been thinking about this, and I think it would be because there's some rumor or things going around town that would make it just unacceptable for
Well, I mean,
auditors
it's a
to take on.
professional reputation at risk.
Well, I'm sure that's it. They're not going to want to be associated with this absolute car crash. Why would they?
Well, I think, yeah, they might find it's, you know, they're being told that they have to say something or do something, and they're like, no.
Yeah, exactly. And the suspicion is that's why the Scottish National Investment Bank guy stepped down. Also, the Treasurer stepped down from the S&P, saying you're not giving me access to the books, and they're clearly not just going to be mouthpieces. You know, as Murray Foot was, he was just a mouthpiece for whatever Morrell told him. But even Murray Foot wouldn't take it in the end. He just said, "Look, I'm not spouting these lies anymore. Like, they're trashing my own reputation here." So everybody's walking away from them. It's quite
well, they have auditors have professional standards, right?
Right.
So
they'll lose their licenses.
Yeah,
they
they'll lose
that.
that. And remember what happened with Enron and Anderson? Anderson killed
my former employers.
Yes, it killed Anderson as a company. Thousands of employees gone because they signed off on Enron's books.
That's
and just overlooked, you know, the few $1 billion or more that were missing in the whole thing, the whole scheme anyway. So yes, it's definitely a thing.
I mean, that's the kind of environment that they've been operating in for the last 2 years. You know, things have been getting worse.
Right.
So the question then, I guess, is, you know, the only person that we know of who's been arrested so far is Peter Murrell. So what do they think that Peter Murrell has done?
Yes,
absolutely.
We'll get more about that. I mean, it's surprising there's not been any leaks about that so far. We'll find out about that soon. If we're going to move along, quite a lot of stuff still to go through on the show. Right, thanks for that, Mary. Next up, it's going to be talking about the Humza's useless Section 35 challenge. That'll be just in a second. Find the thing. Right, as if the money issues weren't bad enough, Humza has decided to go on a wild goose chase against the UK government, which blocked the gender recognition reform bill using Section 35 of the Scotland Act. And that is a provision where the Alistair Jack, who's the Secretary of Scotland, can act to block legislation in devolved administrations if it interferes with UK-wide law. In this case, the premise is that it interferes with the Equalities Act. Now, regular viewers will know that this is one of the reasons we wanted Humza to win. First of all, this bill is extremely unpopular with the public. It's even unpopular with SNP members. I think less than 50% of SNP, I should say members, voters, want this. And it's the reason why many SNP people left for Alba. It keeps in addition to that, it keeps the issue in voters' minds for the next year and maintains in voters' minds the idea that the Greens are in charge of SNP policy, which is true. And it's a lose-lose. Even if they win, right, they'll have all it proves is that devolution works, and it's an insignificant win. But if they lose, then it's a big waste of money. It's a huge loss of face for Humza Yousaf, because everyone will say, why the hell did you take this thing in the first place? And still everyone hates the bill. So, okay, so thoughts. David, do you think any of this, you think there's maybe a chance that it could get through?
Well, I predicted earlier today that it's almost certain that they won't win, but there has been some that the Scottish Government can't win. There's been some legal input today from guys who really know what they're talking about. Roddy Dunlop being one, and he's quoted another gentleman, whose name is Scott Wortley, and their view is it's not a slam dunk. Don't think for certain that this is going to be a definite win for the UK government. If they looked at what S35 actually contains, and it's in two parts. One is that there's a modification of the law as it applies to a reserved matter, and so the UK government can say, no, you can't do it on those grounds. And the other grounds on which the Secretary of State can complain or object is he has reasonable grounds to believe there would be an adverse effect on operation of UK law. Now,
that's the main one.
Exactly. Now, what the guys, these legal boards are saying is, it's very difficult to say accurately which it will go. They probably wouldn't win. That's the Scottish Government probably wouldn't win on the first point, because it clearly is a reserved matter, and that is the Equalities Act. But the second one, that's maybe a little bit more tricky, is what they are saying, in as much as they can challenge the statement that there would be an adverse effect on operation of on the effect rather on the operation of UK law just because of some changes in Scotland. You could say, well, just because of the changes in Scotland, this doesn't necessarily follow that you can't operate the UK law. You might just have to make some amendments to it, but it certainly doesn't mean that it's
but then surely that's a case of the tail wagging the dog.
Very much so.
Right. In that case, they could make the Scottish government. They could make a law that says, "All right, well, we want Trident out." Okay, yep. and then it's a reserved matter, right? First of all, but then in this kind of case would the UK government have to change its laws according to what's going on in Scotland? I don't think that's the way it's supposed to work.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. But I think what they could argue, I guess, in law is, well, you need to make some changes, but it doesn't mean you can't operate it. It's just we'll work in conjunction with each other and that kind of stuff. Do I think they'll win it? No, I don't. All these guys are saying, all these legal opinions are pretty much saying is, look, don't think this is going to be as clear cut in law as the Supreme Court ruling in the S30, which clearly was a reserve matter, and that's pretty much the end of it. This is maybe not as definite that they win. I still think it will win. I think Humza is doing this almost fundamentally for political reasons rather than for legal reasons. I think he wants to make a show of standing up to the UK government. He wants to say it's a denial of our democracy, how dare they? And I think, of course, if they lose, he'll just say, well, it's just yet another reason why we shouldn't have to be bound by the laws of another country and all that nonsense. So, yes. And of course, he's nailed his colours very firmly to the pro-trans lobby mast, if you like, and he's very much in favour of the GRR bill. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised, frankly. I mean, his ideas are ridiculous, and I'll talk about that later when we come to Zoomer. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me he's done this. It could go either way, as these guys are saying. But again, I would say, I mean, a lot of legal opinion last time said, don't think it's certain that the Supreme Court will rule on behalf of the UK government. Of course, they did. And I think the same thing will happen this time. So, yeah, I think it's just a little more politicking from the SNP. I think that's all it is.
Certainly wary everyone's side. It's very easy to be complacent and say, yeah, of course, we're going to win. But you actually have to look through things and say, well, what's going to happen here? But certainly Alex Salmond doesn't think we're going to win. Joanna Cherry doesn't think we're going to win. Most lawyers, I think, would think they're not going to win. And it's seems like a lost crusade. But now remember, this is the only thing that Humza said in his whole campaign where he was really standing up for independence or for standing up for Scotland. You know, we stand up for Scotland better than everyone else, which of course we know is not true. But this is, standing up for Scotland by wasting Scottish taxpayers and UK taxpayers' money on a failed quest isn't really standing up for Scotland. Spending that money instead on poor folk or people who actually need it may be more useful, perhaps. It takes a special kind of stupidity to continue a policy that destroyed the reign of the smartest woman he knows, right? So, this continuity thing, this is... we want this continuity because it's so daft, but it just is. It kind of defies... he's not really that clever, I don't think. And it seems...
No.
I think that's a bit of an understatement, Mark.
Yes.
I think the judgment's already in on that one, to be honest.
Yeah, very much so.
Well, that's...
he's given himself the title, or everyone's given the continuity candidate. What is he continuing? All this financial mismanagement and losing members everywhere? I think
the same idiotic doomed bills and crazy fights as before. That's all he's continuing, and it's just he just looks like a man who he's got. I use this expression a lot. Swinney has the same diffident expression. A man who clearly knows he can't do the job he's been given, and you can see it in his eyes. You can see it in his demeanour. They know that they know they're crap, and we know that they're
walking, crap. As it were.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they are. Yeah. Or my next prediction. Swinney will not last 5 minutes without Sturgeon holding his hand, so he will resign certainly at the next election. We won't see John Swinney beyond the next election. I guarantee you that. There's another prediction for you guys.
Yes, well, okay.
Do you think, David, that any of these, the more senior figures in the SNP are kind of waiting in the wings for all of this, nonsense to get out of the way? Humza's going to get the worst of it, and then once you get rid of Humza, that some of them might step back in again.
Well, I've seen that theory, and I think it has great credence, really. I've seen Angus Robertson tipped as one. Can't really see. I think Angus Robertson is too grey, literally too grey. He actually is. A few people say, Sturgeon's just waiting to get back in. I'll tell you this now.
No.
Nicola Sturgeon is finished in Scottish politics. Please, guys, don't waste your time debating it. Nicola Sturgeon will never be back in Hollywood. Never. Once she leaves, she's gone. You can forget that one. Kate Forbes, of course, you're not sure whether she is sitting in the wings waiting or not. And apart from that, who have you got? You've got Joe Cherry's a possibility which all she'd have to do is move back to Scotland.
It just all seems so old, though, doesn't it?
It
just seems like a bunch of tired folk. There's very little new face. For all the talk about youth and youth issues, the party hierarchy seems very old.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, not old in the sense that they're old age. I mean, Nicola Sturgeon's younger than us, but I mean, they've been there for a long time, and they have all the issues of people who've been in power for a long time. They're arrogant, they're self-centered, they don't listen, and so on. And these are things that are coming out now. So it's many people, especially if they've got a pension sitting at the end of it, maybe they just take the pension instead. And there's no real leadership left. I mean, are we going to really be left with Ash Regan? I mean, come on.
You're right. And I mean, nothing says more about the old image of the SNP than when you look at how old is he now? 70 years of age this year. President Mike Russell, 70, and he's the guy who's masterminding the fight back, and he's the guy who's saying what a terrible mess they're in. Meanwhile, you've got Sturgeon and some and Humza saying, "Oh no, we're not in a mess at all. We're like party presidents."
We're just having a difficult day.
Yeah, there's exactly. Yes, and now it's this. We have to keep the faith, and all this type of nonsense is going on, and that just is even more desperate. Right, that's a short section. Now we're going to move on in a minute to should the Scottish Tories be openly calling for tactical voting. We're back in a second. Whoops, sorry about that.
Is that stuck button again, Mark?
Yeah, stuck me. That's the problem, isn't it? Okay, before that, more than ever, we need your donations to keep the fight going on days like today. Every other day, we work from morning to night to amplify your voice, keep you informed. And so please, if you like what we do, please give a one-time or monthly donation. It would really help. Even a small amount monthly builds up and helps us, if it helps us get on with it, just get on with the work that we need to do. So please, if you can do that. Now, the Tories, the other day, Douglas Ross called for tactical voting to beat the SNP. And he said in the Sunday Times that he suggested Conservative voters do what's best for the country and support the strongest candidate to beat the SNP. Suggesting that they may vote Labour where they are in the best place to beat the SNP. Now, of course, we all know what tactical voting is. But the Tories rejected his comments and said they were emphatically not the views of the Conservative Party, I should say, the UK party in general. And the voters should support the Tories wherever they're standing, as you might think. Of course, Scotland will be different from that. So, and then Ross backtracked a wee bit. I've got the thing here somewhere anyway. But where are we, tactical? Okay, so he backtracked a little bit, and he said that he basically said the same thing in another way. So it wasn't much of a backtrack, to be honest. Let's leave that bit. Now we all know that many Conservatives will vote for Labour in their seats. If they're the best party to beat the SNP, many Tories will do that. But the issue is that many Labour people will not vote Tory. It's not reciprocated, and we know this through experience. Now, some will. Some Labour people do vote Tory and do vote tactically, but it's not in the same numbers as Conservatives do. So the question, but the risk of Douglas Ross saying this overtly is that the SNP can then say, well, Tories and Labour are working together. It's better together all over again. And what we want is ex-SNP to go back to Labour. And if ex-SNP see that Tories and Labour are working together, or at least think that they're doing that, then they won't go back. So is this some kind of double bluff by Douglas Ross, David, to stop Tory voters voting Labour?
Right, okay. Two answers to that question. First off, let's bear in mind, Douglas Ross habitually talks absolute nonsense in interviews. He's the guy before the 2021 election who repeatedly said, vote Conservative to stop an SNP majority and to stop a second referendum. Only the Conservatives, only by voting Conservative can you stop a second referendum. And then the SNP won. So the SNP said,
right.
great, can we have a second referendum now?
Idiotic.
Exactly. I mean, that's Ross for you. But that being said, is this a double bluff by Ross? Yeah, it is the short answer, because very simply, the Conservatives fear nothing more than a resurgent Labour. Ross knows that Labour don't want and will not accept his endorsement. They'll reject it out of hand, as you could be seen by all of the accusations of, Tory light and all this that you've seen this week. He feels, or rather Labour feel, that this will, as you've said above, just deter what we call soft Nats from going back to Labour from the SNP. And of course, Labour is where they came from. Now, the Conservatives, we know, would far rather have an SNP administration in Holyrood than a Labour administration. And that's because, however noisy the SNP MPs and MSPs are, the Conservative Party doesn't feel the SNP in the slightest. They just look down on them and just swat them aside. The SNP can't form a UK government to replace the Tories, whereas Labour can. So the Tories' principal opponents are Labour. Now, they don't give you that impression, because Ross is trying to be clever by saying, oh yeah, we know that what we're going to do is for the public, for the common good, and to fight nationalism. There are two reasons he's saying that. One is to persuade Conservative voters that really Conservatives are the only pro-UK party, and the second is, as you say, to deter Labour voters from voting Labour, because they think, hang on a minute, we don't want to vote for a party that's being endorsed by the Tories. So what we're seeing in Scotland, and I've described this like this before, it's like a three-way Mexican standoff, like at the end of The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, when you get Van Cleef and Eastwood and Eli Wallach, and they're all pointing guns at each other, and you're thinking, well, hang on, why, this isn't just a straight fight. He's got an angle, he's got a different angle, and that's what it's like here. You've got the Labour Party won't tell the truth about where they stand on independence, on nationalism. We know that. The Conservative Party aren't telling the truth about what they fear. You can see that, because he's clearly not being honest about it here. So, and meanwhile, the SNP are laughing at them both, and that's what's happening here. So, yes, this was a ploy by the Tories, quite a clever ploy, because it has the two strands of appealing to Conservative voters and deterring Labour voters, or potential Labour voters, from voting Labour. So I don't blame him for doing it. It's just Ross is so clumsy that you can see through him. That's the problem. So nothing good will come of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I noticed there wasn't such a big, huge, strong denials from Labour. They actually seemed to keep quite quiet. Perhaps I missed those parts. But I think there is another danger. It depresses the Conservative vote in Tory areas.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. It's like, why vote for them? They don't even care.
Well, that's true. Interestingly, straight after the newspaper article, Craig Hoy, who's the party chairman in Scotland, he was wheeled out on the Sunday show with Martin Guise, and the Martin Guise doesn't think interviewed this week, it was somebody else. Anyway, and he said, "Oh, it's ridiculous," and we certainly don't want to do this. And what we say is that people in areas such as he mentioned Aberdeen, he mentioned South Scotland, he mentioned East Renfrewshire, or well, it's not called East Renfrewshire, is it? Eastwood. All the places where the Conservatives either win or come second, and that's the only ones he mentioned. He didn't mention East Lothian, his constituency, where the SNP won the seat back in 2021 from Labour with a 1,200 majority after the Conservative candidate, Craig Hoy, took 9,000 seats. So 9,000 votes, I should say. He didn't mention that constituency. So I mean, it's all just spin from all of them. They're not honest about this at all. So, and one very important point I saw this week is somebody said on Twitter, if you want tactical voting, don't expect the parties to do it. They won't. They've got their own machines, their own party machinery to support and to maintain. They will never say vote for him. They won't do that, guys. We could wait forever. So we've just got to see through the charade and decide ourselves how we're going to try to.
Well, I think the thing that's quite hard is that a lot of people a lot of Conservatives will want to tactically vote for Labour, but because Labour need to get that ex-SNP back, they're like, no, we don't want that. We don't actually say it like that. They actually say, well, we hate the Tories as well, just as much as the SNP.
Yeah,
right? They have to do that, and then of course, then the Tories got upset. Oh, they don't reciprocate, don't do that. So you have to. It's like multiple layers of thinking. You say, look,
right.
What is the ultimate objective? The ultimate objective here is to get rid of nationalism, and the best way to do that is to do tactical voting in your area, but also to ignore when Labour, if you're a Conservative, that is, to ignore these calls, anything Labour says, really. It's a bit of a, you have to, even though Labour say they don't want it, you have to give them it. It's kind of like that. So you're in this kind of weird situation. And whereas Labour people just vote for Labour. But you want the SNP to vote for the other ones. So it's a bit of a mess. Let us hope that we can get back to normal two-party politics at some point, and perhaps with the demise of the SNP, we will see that coming along.
Just a comment I need to make here. A number of people in my Twitter feed are saying, well, what's the point in voting Labour? They're just SNP light. They are soft on a second referendum, and they all back the GRR bill, all of them. Why on earth would I vote for them?
Well, I think that's entirely true, because I think that they don't all back the GRR bill. There are certain strands in there that back the GRR bill, like Monica Lennon, Pam Duncan Glancy, and so on. I think there's a lot of internal debate in Labour about how to deal with that, especially after what's happened with Sturgeon. They put a statement today about it. It was kind of like easy, so I think they're having a debate about it, and I think to at least that debate can go forward. That's not my actual point here. But it's not the same. There's no, I've already said about the logic about Labour offering a referendum. There is absolutely no logic to Labour offering a second referendum, whether it's to entice ex-SNP back or for any other reason. The reason is, if there's going to be if they offer a referendum, those people will just stay with the SNP. That's it. They have to Labour instead has to say, look, you're not getting a referendum. That's not going to happen. So vote for us for better social services or whatever it is. Right? That's what they have to do. And put the decision back onto the SNP voter to say, am I going to go for the dead end? No referendum party that's in just a disaster at the moment, or am I going to be part of this solution going forward?
Absolutely
so we have to appeal. Many of our followers are Conservatives, but we do have Labour people as well. But we have to be careful that we don't get all riled up and saying, "Oh, Labour isn't doing that and doing that," because even with their ambivalence on the gender bill, it doesn't stop SNP people coming back to Labour, and that's perhaps just as important. You want Labour to be really against it, but does that actually suit our end purpose? I'm not entirely sure.
Exactly.
So we can do that. Anyway.
Really good point from Alan Jack, just quickly. Encourage the Fools to vote Alba and split the Separatist vote as well. Absolutely right, Alan. That's what we should do, because it's not my enemies, my friend. It is quite simply mathematics, arithmetic. The pro-UK vote is split so badly that it's split three ways, and the SNP regularly wins seats with less than 40% of the vote. If the nationalist vote can be split in the same way as the pro-UK vote is, all the better, because they won't win.
Yeah, I think we're going to that, although I don't think that many people will go from the fire to an even worse fire, from one bin fire to the next. So anyway, all right, coming up, we're going to have Zimmer of the Week, but things you can do to support the show. You can make a donation to the majority. Anything is everything. Anything is great. You can buy a T-shirt. Look at this. This is so great. And
good quality too.
The sleeves are fantastic.
Yeah.
And you can subscribe to the show. We're over 1,000 subscribers. Thank you very much.
Subscribers on YouTube.
Oh, yes, on YouTube.
Yeah.
And you tell friends about us, or do all of the above, which makes us very happy. Coming up, it's a moment you've all been waiting for. It is Zimmer of the Week.
Yay.
Right, well, it looks like I'm up first. My Zimmer of the Week is Brian Cox. Seems to spend a lot of his time trying to distance himself from his own nationalism. I suppose as an actor, that's one kind of thing to do, right? Here he is in the Sunday Times, yesterday's paper. He's saying SNP should change its name to the Scottish Independence Party, as if that will make a big difference.
That will solve their problems.
Okay, but there's a couple of interesting quotes in this. First is, it should be called the Scottish Independence Party, not the Scottish National Party. I would change the name, get rid of that name. It narrows everything. I wish I could do it like him. I'd have to put a lot of effort, especially when we think of National Socialism and all the horrors that go with the name National Socialism. I'm all for redesigning the party in that way. Wait a minute. Who mentioned the Nazis? Why mention the Nazis?
Exactly.
It's like,
Because we've forgotten to mention them for a week, so let's mention them again.
it's very weird. It's a very strange thing to say. We should call a party something different because people think we're Nazis. You're like, what? Could it be that they did actually have similar aims in the 1930s? Many of the early SNP members were so rabidly anti-English that they wanted the Nazis to win, or at least they would be happy if England lost and the Nazis won. And a lot of the movement in the early SNP was against conscription to fight in the empire's wars, which they saw it. Not, of course, conveniently forgetting that Scotland was a huge part of running that same empire.
Absolutely. Well,
so then we had quote 2. Once we have an independent Scotland, there will be a Labour Party, a Conservative Party. I'd love to see Labour come back to a free Scotland. You're like, well, wait a minute. We've talked about this before. If he wants the Tories to win, to be in a free Scotland, that means he must accept that the Tories at some point would win. Right? Which means he wants a Tory-run Scotland. So if he wants a Tories-run Scotland in the future, what's the problem with a Tory-run Scotland now? Logic. That's logic for you, right? Yep. So anyway, and he then, to cap this off, he says, Labour, he's scared. Labour might do really well. We've got to get our shit together, but they might do quite well. You're like, this guy is a guy who claims to be a socialist. So he's claims to be a socialist, and he wants Labour to lose so that his nationalist dream of a free Scotland can come about. It's a bit much.
Total BS. Absolute nonsense, all of it. Let's not forget, I mean, Brian's got previous. Every time he's interviewed, he says something ridiculous. Remember his... you have to remember, we're not like the English. We're different. We're Celts. Oh, God. Right, okay. So we're different from people...
We'll tell that to Humza, Yousaf.
Exactly. Quite different from people from Liverpool, Bradford, Newcastle. We're different. How are we different again? Well, remembering that Newcastle is further north than Kilmarnock because of the strangeness of the UK. So it's just nonsense. And there's another one in his interview with Nicola Sturgeon. Remember when she did her one-woman show at the festival? And he said, we want to make decisions made by people in Scotland. It's all about country. And she said, and democracy. He went, and democracy. What are you talking about? You're going to be a Democrat. Oh, God, rubbish.
It's just, gets into people's heads, this idea, this virus of nationalism, and I wrote about this a while back, Scotland's Lost Socialists. People claim that they're socialists, and they've put out the most vile nationalist messages, and it's just, nationalism is not socialism. It's just not. It's the opposite. It's a ridiculous, greed-based, centralizing, national... I mean,
totalitarian, exactly.
The whole thing is like that, and... and they're like, oh yeah, this is great. Like, put your brain on, act as though you've got a brain. How about that?
But he's just an actor. I mean, I think you're giving him too much.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the thing is that these people are really good in one particular field, maybe not quite so good in the but maybe perhaps it shows how desperate they are at the moment they have to put him on the front page. He's my candidate for Zoomer of the week.
Okay, good one. Thank you.
Right. We'll be coming back in a second with David's.
Mm-hmm. Okay, people, my nomination for Zoomer of this week is Humza Yousaf. Now, not for one specific statement or action, but for, as per usual, his consistent incompetence and idiotic decision-making. So this week alone, as in the last 3 days, Humza has claimed he didn't know that the SNP's auditors had quit 6 months ago. Happily, though, on finding out, he sprang into action immediately. He instructed party officials to find new auditors. Brilliant. Well done, Humza. That will really do the job. Why didn't somebody else think of that in the last 6 months? I don't know. So then, true to form, we were asking about the continuity. Let's not forget one of the features of the last administration, which Humza is promising to continue, is the rampant nepotism. And in that vein, Humza has appointed Julie Hepburn as the SNP's new head of strategic delivery. Julie is married to Jamie Hepburn, who is the SNP's newly appointed independence minister. Great. So fantastic, isn't it?
What about the kids? Do they not get jobs as well?
Oh, I'm sure they will be. They'll be there. They'll be there doing their work experience. And finally,
maybe they'll be the new auditors.
Good point. Yeah. Well, maybe Kate Forbes could do it. Didn't she do 2 semesters of accountancy once upon a time? She could do it. We all know she's trustworthy.
She certainly should. There's our questions then about her competence in
That's
this
true.
as well.
Yeah,
I mean, who knew? What did she know, and when did she know it?
Yes.
Well, I know.
That's true. I mean, with all the nonsense that's going on in the SNP's finances, are we really holding up Kate Forbes, the finance minister, as the paragon of virtue? And
I know.
Who are we kidding? Come on, guys. Anyway, so and of course, as we've talked about, he's confirmed today Humza's intention to go to court to fight the UK government's imposition of a Section 35 to block the GRR bill, despite legal advice, which is almost certainly telling him, look, you're not going to win this, So he's going to undergo yet more very expensive, doomed to fail, almost certainly, legal action simply to make a spurious political point. And in so doing, of course, yet more Scottish taxpayers' money will be wasted on what is effectively an SNP political vanity project. Now, we don't expect much from an SNP First Minister because God knows Nicola Sturgeon set a pretty low bar, but Humza is doing his best to make Sturgeon's reign look like a golden age. So he's been FM for 2 weeks, and in school terms, his 2-week report card reads, not remotely good enough, must do better. And that's why Humza is my nomination for Zoomer of the Week.
It's a low bar, and he is able to limbo under it.
Yeah,
quite wearing a top hat, exactly.
How low does he go? Yeah.
How low will he go? Yes, I mean, it's a bit of a disaster. It shows you how bad. I mean, he's just been swept by events, right?
Yes.
He just can't do anything because these events are so bad. I mean, a motorhome was front page news instead of him, right? that's the level of it, right?
Brilliant.
So it's just, he's just been swept away by the events. It was a poison chalice he was given,
and he was daft enough to take it.
Dumb enough to take it is right.
Poorly, as the movie goes. All right, next up, Mary is going to give us her Zoomer.
My nomination for Zoomer of the Week is Janey Godley for her vulgar and crass video she put out this week, trying to make light of the seriousness of the SNP and the Peter Murrell fraud investigation. Do you have that, Mark?
Yes, I do have that. Let's hope it plays.
Okay. Aye, so that's the whole garden being dug up, and they put a marquee out in the front, and I didn't know how good my house looked with a marquee. I might keep that up for the street party for King Charles' coronation, joking. But they found a good silver sling back in that garden. I've been hunting for it for months, so we're going to get all the decking done. I didn't know how good the house would look with that garden all done. The decking's going to be done. We're going to have a couple of chairs, a wee fire pit, a Pippa sale. We'll have everything with a big party come the summer. Peter's away down to the caravan to give everybody a wee break. He's away down to Weems Bay. So it's been quite the week, but thanks for coming round.
Yeah, it's crass. It really is extremely crass.
Okay, so she's trying to arrest the downplay. She's trying to downplay the arrest of Peter Murrell.
Yes.
The very of fortune, the seizure of a very expensive motorhome outside a 92-year-old woman's house, and what Nicola Sturgeon's part in all of this might have been. What did Nicola know and when did she know it? But to Janey, it's all just a big joke, a big laugh. And the biggest problem is she just isn't funny.
No, it's very true. It's not funny. I think I've thought about this quite a bit, and I think one of the issues here is it's not actually about comedy. It's really about power. I mean, it does the opposite of what most comedy does. Most comedy is directed against power, especially against politicians, to expose their lies, expose their hypocrisy, expose their criminality, perhaps. But here she's joking with them against us. She's actually on Sturgeon's side. Everything in her world, everything is fine. It's all a big joke. Sturgeon's husband is under police investigation. Is to be laughed away for stealing. For stealing, but at least we think perhaps stealing SNP members' funds, right? So it's quite shocking. This, and it's just putting a face on it. And I don't know if you noticed when Sturgeon came out as well. She was all cheery the other day. Instead of saying this is a serious allegations, oh my God, this is terrible, and we'll get through it. It's like, I'm cheery. The one time she had to handle this, that one. It's all cheery. You're like, something a bit off here. But anyway, so Godley, as we've said this before, is acting as a court jester, and the Griffiths role that works both ways. The skits are designed to give Sturgeon a voice of the people, which allows her to reach out to or people she wouldn't be able to reach out to as a bookish, lawyerish, boring person. Now, they're not saying the comedy works, but many people fall for this act. And the other part is it deflects criticism away from the leader. And this is part of why she's such a bully online, because the comedy is a way for her to gain power. And it's why she's so obsessed with getting awards. And, she'll describe herself as an award-winning comic. And that's because she wants the power of it all. Yes. She's not actually that funny. She uses comedy for power. Other people would just be like, other comedians are like, I don't care about awards. I'll make a joke about Nicola Sturgeon. That's what I'll do, and walk away. But very few people are able to do that at the moment. Shocking.
Well, Janey Godley, she's always, she's telling us that she's dying of cancer, and this is how she chooses to spend the time that she has left. I mean, she never misses an opportunity to appear relevant. Yeah, she's just a bought and paid for has-been comedian.
Well, she was told. Went to counselling after all the racist stuff, apparently, and was told to stay away from all this political stuff. He was just back on it, providing cover for Nicola Sturgeon. Okay, turns out it's me to choose. So it's going to be Janey Godley, or it's going to be Humza Yousaf, but Patsy, or it was mine, which was Brian Cox. Or Brian Cox. I think it has to be Janey Godley because she is making light of what is really an extremely serious situation, trying to brush it away, and instead she should be tearing into them, as all comedians should be. They should be tearing into them in every part of this. This motorhome stuff is, it's comedy gold. The memes, I'll tell you, the people are doing it. People are creating memes, including us, but many thousands of people, or hundreds of people out there creating memes about this type of stuff. They are the real people, real heroes in this situation, and actually holding them to account using comedy. Yes, not Miss Godley. Anyway.
And just to say, we don't in any way seek to demean the struggle, the battle she's going through on a personal level. I know exactly what it's like to be going through a cancer condition, believe me. So we are not in any way downplaying that. It's dreadful that anybody is seriously ill, and that's awful. Doesn't detract from the fact that she's a very, very, very strange woman who makes odd choices, and she brings a lot of this stuff on herself, unfortunately, in terms of the criticism.
Well, it's all, I think, obviously very insecure, and she's trying to gain power whatever way she can. Yeah. And this is the result of it. That's my psychoanalysis of the situation. Anyway, well done, Mary, for that nomination.
We seem to have someone in here. We've got Colin in here who says, Mary has the kind of face that looks like it should be scalped. Pretty sure Marky Boy obliges.
Okay, well.
That's not how we find our fun. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, interesting view of your personal habits there, Colin.
Well, there's no need for that. We can have debate. Exactly. We don't need to go into the personal things. I actually told someone off the other day for talking about making things a bit personal. Some people are up for that, some people are not. It's not time and a place. Anyway, as Alan Jack says, some of the memes are hilarious. Thank you for staying with us for this. We ran over a little bit tonight. So much to discuss about what's going on in Scottish politics these days. Every day is a new revelation, a ridiculous front page, a disaster for this, and people loving it. Who couldn't love this? We struggled away for years. We thought our majority was ignored for years, and now this is payback time. Anyway, thank you for being with us on the show tonight.
And thank you for all your comments, everyone.
Thanks, guys. The comments and the support are so much appreciated. Cheers. Thank you, guys, really.
And so I'll leave you with thought for the week. I think one of the worst things about our modern age is the sense of entitlement, unearned entitlement that many people have, especially the idea that the losers of a referendum have the right to force the rest of us into another one. But there's no right to break up the UK. There's no entitlement. They're not entitled to get reruns of any kind. So it's time the UK government particularly said, no, that's not what you're going to get. That's not what this country is about. This country is about unity and cohesion, and we should actually ban, in my opinion, secession like every other democracy in the world. Yep. I think we've seen the trouble it's caused. But let's not talk about that right now. We'll talk about that next week, and we'll see you again. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good night, guys. See you next week.
See you later.